setting up, it's loading. Here we go. Well, hello everybody. I'm so excited today because we are talking about going plastic free with NADA Grocery, who's a SheEO Venture. And this is Alison. My name is Hannah Cree. I'm a SheEO Venture in residence, and I'm also the co-founder of Common Good. I can't wait to chat with you. I am born and raised in Vancouver. I now live in Alberta, but I've been a big fan, and I think that this model, and I love your name, by the way, Nada. It totally explains what you're doing. But why don't you kind of give us your why and why you created Nada Grocery?
Yeah, we're really advocating for a future with less packaging and less food waste. My business partner, Brienne, has a marine biology background, and I come from sort of like a environmental science background with a lot of personal experience growing up in and working in small grocery stores and getting really curious about food system work. So the two of us sort of over time joined forces and decided to start doing pop-up shops and community building as much as we could, and eventually managed to somehow build out a store 2 years ago. And now we're sort of obviously in a bit of a transition period with our store operations being very different than what they were at one time. But just sort of carrying on, doing what we can as we go.
Well, let's talk about that. You know, you are a grocery store, and before COVID, what was the experience walking into your store? Just so people understand how to go plastic free, or what a store like that would look like.
The experience is pretty different now. What we used to have was people would come in with, you could come in with nothing and just sort of come in with your curiosity, but we did have a lot of people who would come in with their own bags and jars and containers. We're open to any material, essentially. We want to just promote reuse. We're not trying to promote pantry porn. We really want to encourage you to use whatever you have at home. And essentially what would happen was we would, come say hello. We have a container weighing system that we built out. And then most of the store operations is self-serve. So you have the freedom and flexibility to fill up however much you want of your containers or bags. We have one section of deli items, higher risk foods that our staff sell. We also did have a in-store cafe, which was a really awesome opportunity for our chef to sort of collect some of the imperfect produce that was beyond selling and create them into like a soup, salad, and smoothie menu, as well as some of our other items that we no longer have available. And then, you could essentially check out. So now what we're doing is we've pivoted entirely due to COVID to a online shopping model. So at first, we were still open for a small period of time and allowed people to come in with their like grocery list, and we would fill up like deposit jars or paper bags. So it was essentially like a personal shopper model where each of our staff would be like personally helping each person who walked in the door. But it was just a really slow and sort of, the business model wasn't what we wanted it to be. And it was a temporary fix anyways. So now what we're doing is we essentially like launched a Google Sheet that was our stand-in order form, and then just last week we've launched an online newsletter or an online website that allows us to list all of our products online with photos and information on the product itself. More things to come, obviously, but for now, that's sort of what we're up to. So the personal experience has really changed. Obviously, like you can't just walk into our doors anymore. There's a lot less conversing going on. We were doing a lot of in-store community building and film screening and yoga classes, and our community is really big and a huge proponent of the work that we do. And unfortunately, it's just not possible for what we're doing right now. So we're trying to find ways that we can continue to bring people in and get people online, but it is unfortunately not the same.
Not
But
the
it's,
same. I mean, that's everybody's experience through COVID too, right? You have a business model before COVID, and in the bulk foods kind of piece, I know a lot of provinces basically said, like, during COVID, like, you can't do bulk. This is it. And that would hit NADA and your whole grocery model completely different. And then to be like, how do I take bulk and what we're doing and plastic free and encouraging all of these things and go online? Like, that's quite, I hate the word pivot, but it's a pivot, right? It's
mm-hmm.
one of those, like, how do we make those pieces work? And um were there like key people to help you do that? Like, making that pivot is a big one. So who did you need to bring in? Were there people that really had to help you through that and reimagine this model?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know that we were, you especially, and my business partner Brianne have been very active in the SheEO Venture calls weekly, and pulling on each other for resources. So my understanding of the impact that that sort of community provided us with in terms of help is sort of beyond my knowledge, just sort of from what I heard and personally experienced. But I know that that was a pretty like significant community piece in that time, just because there's I think a lot of camaraderie and a lot of understanding and a lot of help being offered and a lot of asks and gives, and that community was really pivotal for us sort of emerging out of those first few weeks. In terms of beyond that, again, we had some really great connections come through the SheEO network that allowed us to connect with some people through for our online store setup. So met some people through Shopify, which was really great. And then we also met some people to help us out with our website build. So I mean, yeah, we have become, because we're so involved in so many different communities, we really did have to pull on quite a few. And I mean, we were doing the same thing. Like we were offering our help wherever we could as well, to sort of have some feeling of reciprocity. But
Mhm.
yeah, it was a chaotic time, and yeah, the SheEO network definitely helped a ton in terms of our smooth emergence out of those first couple of weeks, which were just,
They were nuts.
they're
I
nuts.
mean I mean, the venture calls that we had, and I know Brianne was on there, myself, my own business went through, losing pretty much all of its revenue, and I remember those times. So to be able to have that support and everyone resourcing each other is quite incredible. And we
Yeah.
do have a question already from Facebook, which is amazing. Was it hard for you to make the decision to go online with your zero waste business?
Yeah, it was. I think what was the hardest part was sort of getting around the fact that we could, for a time, not allow people to use their own containers. That's pretty like
Yeah.
pretty big in terms of the work that we do in our business model, as it stood. And so to sort of shift away from that and to move into jar deposits and paper bags was tricky. We understand though that I don't think that like bulk is going away. I don't think that bring your own container is going away. It maybe is just on a bit of a hiatus right now. So yeah, it was really hard. It was hard to also like, yeah, kind of move away from that sort of face-to-face exchange and community feeling in store, to have our store essentially be a place for our staff to come and fill, and that kind of be that. Um, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and you have to sort of be spry and on your toes when you're doing business amidst a pandemic. And I think we were just sort of, yeah, realizing that there was only so much we could do. We had to let some things go that were really sort of, yeah, pivotal in our business model, and also realize that obviously we're doing this to keep people safe. So that was really our biggest priority once we got through like some of the steps that we did. So yeah.
Yeah, and I love how you said that maybe this is just on hiatus for a bit, bringing your own containers. Like I'm used to bringing my own bags to the grocery store, and you
Mhm.
can't do that anymore. And so, there's only been one that I really saw went to paper. Everyone still like goes back to plastic, and we're sitting in plastic free July, right? And you have a zero, you bring your own containers and do all of that. And is there tips that you would give to people during this time? And also, I want to dive into a word that you said, pantry porn, which I think this has to do with it. But what are some tips for people when they're going through plastic free July, when even our current environment during COVID is indicating something else?
Yeah. Yeah, we've been getting asked this quite a bit. And I keep telling people to just sort of do what you can, focus on like the small individual steps and recognize that, we're doing this to keep people safe right now. And unfortunately, single use is trumping so a lot of reuse and reducing measures. But yeah, I think just sort of, yeah, following along with the guidelines that are going on in your community and trying to be patient and understanding with yourself. I think it's been tough for a lot of people who, have a lot of like a feel good mentality from living like trying to focus on like waste reduction, to all of a sudden having their trash bag full of, or recycling bin full of things that they're not used to seeing in house. But yeah, my personal biggest tip is to just continue to be patient and kind to yourself, because I think a lot of people can really strive for perfection and try and maintain that, and it's just not a priority right now, unfortunately, with the way with the uncertainty of the virus as well, right? So I think as time has gone on and things have let up a little bit, obviously it's different from province to province and country to country right now, for sure. But yeah, I mean, now we're allowed to bring in our own personal shopping bags. Bulk sections are open back up, but you can't have any bring your own container. So I think it's just, yeah, being patient with the phases and recognizing that hopefully we'll get back to a point where we can be focused on waste reduction. But yeah, COVID has not been package free friendly, that's for sure.
Right. But first of all, I love your Instagram. And today I saw posted some 5 tips on
Mhm.
kind of the low waste kitchen. And one of them that I almost feel embarrassed, but I don't care because this is how we learn, that I've never thought of, is store produce trimmings, onion skins, mushroom stems in the freezer and save them for later to make veggie stock. And I was like, oh, yeah. Like I've
Yeah.
never done that before. And so even that, like those little tips where I was like, yeah, usually they go into the compost, but like what if we froze them and did those things? So I definitely suggest people to kind of check out your Instagram, because even on that you talk about, and this is a little bit that I want to dive into, is that you do impact reporting. So how much waste you're saving from the landfill and all of these different kind of indicators. And I know in social entrepreneurship or social impact businesses, this is actually kind of a hard topic. People don't really know, what do I track? What is meaningful? What does it really mean to save this? Or like, is it just this big numbers game? And how are you doing that? And some people do it well. Other people are like, don't do it at all. And there's still a social impact. Do you have any tips for entrepreneurs, social impact businesses of tracking? Like, how did you get to that? And why is it important to you?
I think for us, it was really the sort of backbone of our business to begin with. Like we're not in the grocery world to make a bunch of money. This is a low margin industry, and we're really just coming at it from a more environmental perspective and trying to tread lightly. And I think with that, we put it upon ourselves to make sure that we're also, walking the walk and talking the talk, and sharing some of that with our community. And it's been really interesting to see other businesses show up in the same way. And I think that, yeah, I think that there has been kind of a movement to focus a little bit more on impact over the years, and to be able to communicate that to our community and prove that to people. And I mean, like, we're really far from like what we want to be doing as well. But yeah, I think we just sort of established the metric tracking early on, and that allowed us to continue to like promote those numbers over time. So in terms of advice, I don't know, like, every business model is different, obviously, and there's different ways of tracking metrics, of course. So it is really personalized, but um, one of the like coolest opportunities that we sort of found through working with some of our contractors, specifically our waste hauler, was recognizing the tracking that they were also doing on their end from the collections that they had from our store. So a lot of data is out there for you to potentially tap into already. It's just sort of making that connection and forming those relationships with whoever you're working with, and seeing if you can collaborate on metric tracking and communication.
That is, like, I actually love that. It's like, are your partners tracking that? They're
Mm-hmm.
picking up your waste, so that you're able to do maybe not as much work because you can get that of something that's already built in. So talk to your partners, figure
Mm-hmm.
out how they're tracking those types of things. Because if you're in the social impact world and working on what we call it at SheEO, the world's to-do list, which is really the UN sustainable goals. And it's like, if we're doing that and we're working on the world's to-do list, we want to also partner with people that are doing the same, right?
Yeah.
That's a core value, at least for myself. I know it's for Nada. It's like, if these are our values, we also want to have partners. So how are they tracking, and how can we help each other in this impact reporting? I love that tip. It's huge. I will talk about that forever.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Of
Um,
course.
I also like, tell me what it means. What does pantry porn mean? I is such an amazing word, but what does that mean?
I mean, specifically, pantry porn is what you would see on Instagram, like the perfect labeled glass jars, the mason jars, the bamboo lids, the fancy like label maker labels and things like that. I think there really is a association with like the zero waste world and a very sort of like white middle class perfect idea. And what we're really trying to do is move away from that and sort of look at our business model from the lens of a lot of like this idea is not new, right? Like the saving your kitchen scraps. This is something that people had to do worldwide to make stock because you couldn't afford like fresh organic vegetables to throw in your stock pot, right? Like a lot of, and packaging is new, plastic is new. And so a lot of the communicating and a lot of the conversations that we really try and have in store and online is sort of making people think, okay, well, maybe I don't need to buy, maybe I can afford a beeswax wrap, but what can I actually use that I might have at home? Oh, well, maybe do what people have been doing for years and years, is just using a bowl and putting a plate on top and calling that a container in itself, right? So yeah, I mean, if you have the ability to purchase goods that promote like lower waste in your home, that's wonderful. But I think bringing in the accessibility piece is really important to this conversation as well. It doesn't have to be this fancy sort of, fancy movement. I'm really wanting to, make people realize that what we're actually doing is old. It's an old idea. My
Mm.
grandparents owned like a tiny little organic shop, like up island on Vancouver Island, and everything was in paper bags because plastic didn't exist yet, right? And so and people would come in with their reused paper bags and shop that way, and purchase what they could and focus on, only buying what they needed because they probably couldn't afford otherwise. So it's just sort of like making that connection, because so many people come to us and they're like, oh wow, this is such an innovative idea, like this is amazing, paving the way, da da da. Which is, very kind, but it's also just, attributing some of that to previous generations that have been doing this for a really long time. So, oh no, I think we froze. Uh-oh. Oh no. It still says I'm live on Facebook, everybody, but Hannah's not here. Um, well, I am wondering if I should maybe wrap this up just in case. One of the last things that I was asked to do was share, this is really funny, share an ask or a give of anyone who may be watching this. And my ask that I was going to share was to participate in Plastic Free July. It's obviously happening all month. It is happening in its own different form right now due to COVID. But yeah, if you hop onto the NADA Instagram page, we have quite a bit of content that we're sharing throughout the month relating to Plastic Free July. But there's tons of other accounts and information. Plastic Free July has their own website itself to sort of promote the things that you can do right now to help reduce your footprint when it comes to food waste and plastic pollution. So yeah, I think again, like just my big takeaway is to be patient and kind to myself amidst all of this and recognize that there's no use striving for perfection. And yeah, just sort of trying to take your small steps and potentially inspiring others to do the same and kind of going from there. So I think I'll check out. Thank you, Hannah. I'm sorry I couldn't thank you in person or online. Thank you, SheEO, for hosting me. And yeah, I look forward to carrying on the conversation soon. Thanks so much. Take care.